Hey, what's up everybody? This is Corey from How To Tech, and we're going to go ahead and reassemble this iPhone 7. If you missed a disassembly, I'll throw that down in the description below. The first thing we're going to do is take this metal housing piece that goes across the back of the display and put that in. We're going to line up all the screw holes and make sure the ribbon cable is underneath the back plate. You can see the longer cables underneath the little elbow of the back plate. You want to make sure you have that all the way in there. Now that we have the back plate on, we're going to go ahead and insert the 6 screws down the sides of the frame and into this back metal plate. They don't have to be extremely tight. You just want to make sure they're nice and snug. We're not looking to strip these screws out, and really it's just a little piece of shielding that helps protect the back of the display of the phone. Put this screw in. One thing that I find very helpful is to balance the screw on the tip of your screwdriver. Make sure that they're all magnetic, and that way when you go to insert it into the hole, it makes it a lot easier if it's nice and lined up. So just position it on the top of the screwdriver first rather than trying to hold it and put it in the hole. That makes it pretty difficult. Alright, we're on our 4th screw. Just 2 more to go. I'm not a big fan of tri-wing screws. They seem like they're easier to strip out, less to grip, and it doesn't seem like the bits are really that fantastic. This is an iFixit bit, which is actually pretty good. Some of the other bits I have, they're just not cut very well. It seems like there's a flood in the market of kind of cheaper parts. Go ahead and put the home button in first, and it goes in and through, and then rests on the front of the screen. We need to make sure we dip this ribbon cable underneath the cable that it attaches to, that runs underneath that back metal plate. There's a little pinhole, a standoff, that it's going to sit into, and then you'll make sure it's lined up, and you can go ahead and snap the ribbon cable back together. I do like the fact this home button doesn't have a gasket on it. That makes it quite nice. We'll go ahead and put the back plating of the home button on here real fast. That'll take 4 screws to put in place. And again, not extremely snug, just nice and tight. You don't have to strip the screws out. Just 1 more to go. Perfect. Now the home button's done, we can go ahead and work on the top of the device for the front-facing camera. Now this can be a little bit tricky, and this is probably the most daunting part of putting this phone back together. We need to put this sensor cable in first. Now I start with the longer portion of it, the black portion that goes in, I believe it's the proximity sensor first. It goes in the little plastic holder, and then the ribbon cable can kind of fold over on top of it. You can kind of see the foam, and then we'll put the little gold connectors down. We'll use our tweezers to put this back in place. We'll see there are little standoff posts that go around the ribbon cable, and that kind of hold it in place and make sure everything's put in properly. And once you kind of get everything snugged up, you can kind of pull it towards you and just kind of pop everything back in where it should go. Just kind of press down with your tweezers and make sure everything's lined up properly before you put your speaker on at the top. And the nice thing is the way that this speaker works is it's really hard to misalign. You essentially can't misalign it with the 4 screws on it. The front-facing camera will fold over the top of it. Now before we put our bracket on, we're going to put the 2 screws in down here in the bottom of the loudspeaker. One goes just below the front-facing camera. It does have springs in the speaker itself, so it will kind of want to pull itself off. So you may have to press it down a little bit to put the screw in and line the hole up. Both screws are back in place. Now we can go ahead and use our bracket, put that on top, and then put our remaining 3 screws on. Just make sure your front-facing camera is seated properly in the plastic portion. My screw is trying to get away there. Alright, we have 2 more to go. Last one up here at the top of the bracket. Alright, with that done, we're up to the second trickiest part of the repair, and that is connecting these ribbon cables. It can be a little daunting. They don't always want to line up properly. You do want to make sure you feel a click when they snap in place, but don't press extremely hard. You don't want to damage these. They're almost impossible to replace. I want to start with the one at the top, and the reason is that it gives you a little bit more play with the bottom ones. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of snap this one in. Just line it up properly. Take your time. Push down. You'll feel it kind of clip in. Press on both sides of the cable to make sure it's seated properly. Then we'll go ahead and snap the bottom ones in. Start with the interior, smaller one first. And press on both sides, and then the longer one will go over the top of the smaller one. Now we can go ahead and reconnect our battery. Now let's put the brackets in. One thing that I found about this front-facing camera bracket ribbon cable connector is on the left side of it, you don't want to screw it down extremely tight, or else you're not going to be able to put the other side in. It doesn't always want to line up properly. You'll see there's a little cutout on the one side. So I would put this in a little loose, and if you have to go back and tighten it after you put the other side in, do so. And then what we're going to do to make the second screw easier is just to flip the front of the device over, and then we can put our screw in without having to fight the display. Perfect. Now with that bracket in, we can go ahead and put the final bracket down here at the bottom. Put this shielding plate on. We have 4 screws to put in down here as well. Start at the top, that way we can kind of push it in and make sure all the screw holes are lining up. 2 more to go. And I do like the way that this new screen opens. It does make it much easier to do the repair when it opens like a book. It doesn't seem like you can damage the cable as easy and as you could on some of the other phones. So we'll go ahead and shut this. We're just going to push the display up towards the top and in. And that'll get the 2 connections at the top seated. Then we can press down at the bottom, and our screen will go together just perfect. Alright, make sure there's no gaps all the way around. You could really put some adhesive back in there if you wanted to. You're not going to gain waterproof back on this phone unless you have an actual gasket seal, and I'm pretty sure they vacuum seal them together to gain that IP68 rating. So you're just not going to gain that, so I'd say it's not really worth the waste of time unless for some reason your screen is extremely loose. We'll put in our 2 pentalobe screws down here at the bottom, and again, don't over tighten them. You may have to change your screen again. You want to get those back out if possible. We'll go ahead and power the device on, give it a second to boot up, and just make sure the screen's going to function properly. Now you could really test this display before you get to this point. Once you connect all the connections in the battery, you could turn it on and just check to make sure it's going to function properly. If you want to check out where I get the screen from, I usually get it from Etrade Supply. I'll link that down in the bottom below. If you want to check out the disassembly, you can look that as well. And I put all the tools and everything else I use down in the description below. So let's go ahead and just test this out. And it's working great. Perfect. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed watching this. As always, thanks. Catch you on the next one.